Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Precursive Perspective. For those of you watching this, you'll be wondering, why is Jonathan in a shirt? Because this is probably the first time that anyone's seen me in a shirt. It's because I have an actual meeting with a very formal organization later on today, which will be quite interesting. So my children looked at me this morning and said, "Dad, what's going on?" But anyway, there we go. I'm delighted to welcome my friend from Portugal, Cristina Roque Lino, from OutSystems. Lovely to have you on the show. How are you?
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we got to meet in person recently in Orlando, of all places, so that was fun. Would you mind giving our guests a little bit of an introduction to you and a
Sure.
little bit about your role, your organization, and your background, if you don't mind, to start with?
Sure. So I work at OutSystems, which is a high-performance local software platform, and I run globally the professional services organization. Prior to that, I was with IBM for 14 years, following with Fujitsu for 8 years, where I had basically sales roles, and I love sales. And I learned a lot in terms of, product marketing, sales processes, delivery services, operating models. And then that experience that I accumulated over the years brought me to OutSystems. And I'm very glad to be here. We have a very powerful platform to develop great applications. And I run the teams, the tools, and the processes that allows us to deliver high quality services to our customers.
Awesome, very good. Well, definitely, I'm always interested in folks that have that blend of kind of the consultancy, systems integrations background, and then software SaaS industry, because I think, as you highlighted, understanding of the strategy and operating model is super important. I think it's something that scaling SaaS companies sometimes struggle with. So we'll get into that. And like me, you come from a sales background. So I'm really interested to get into the kind of the commercial mindset and the commercialization of services with you. I think looking back over the last years, kind of how have you seen the evolution of your services, what's been the evolution of your services organization over the last years?
So our services organization mission is really to operate as a growth engine. Okay, we have to support the adoption of the product, but clearly we have to generate value to our customers, and we do that by leveraging our practices, our people, our assets. And act as also an enablement engine to help our customers and our partners to grow their skills and to become more autonomous. So it's a twofold mission. And over the last 3 years, our organization has gone through some transformations in different fronts. In one front that I think it's very important, more and more we have been aligning our charter to the company goals and priorities. It's very important to be aligned, and these discussions start at the SMT, right? And this means aligning the products, but also on the GTM. We need to understand how the company wants to bring its products and service to the market. So we need to be very well aligned. We also need to align our skills and our delivery and operating models. For example. So our charter at OutSystems balances between supporting the product growth and its adoption, while at the same time delivering profitable revenue. So it's very important. Another front where our organization has evolved is aligning the delivery models and the products to the GTM. For example, the company wants to scale through partners. So how do we align and adjust our organization and the services and the skills we bring to the market? We know that the partners are the best way to expand our reach, right? And the best way to scale out. So when we think about bringing our products and services, we need also to think, how can we empower partners to leverage our expertise with our end customers? So that's just an example where we had to change and to adapt to this new GTM. Another front is also on the services pre-sales capability. We have been putting in place a very strong pre-sales capability, services pre-sales capability. We align with the field teams, we sit with them, we segment the market, we align priorities. And by building unified plays and strategies, we are much more effective because we are totally aligned, not only on the goals, on the targets, but on the way we execute to attain those goals. And then besides that, also we have been changing significantly our processes, our operations, not only to better plan and control the business, but also to have improved tools. We have been investing. We implemented last 2 years ago our PSA, and that has been critical to the way we work. We have been much more efficient and effective managing all our resources and our teams and our budgets. So combining all these positive changes, actually we started to measure its impact, and we can proudly say that we have been helping our customers to get to the right outcomes, whilst at the same time driving more consumption and more value to our business and to our company. Awesome. That's how we have been transforming.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think that's a really elegant articulation of a services transformation, because you're backing into it from services as a growth engine for the business and engineering that customer value, which is kind of where it needs to start, right? And then sort of breaking down the GTM and the operating model and the role of partners and people and commercial. Zeroing in on the pre-sales element. So do you have a dedicated services sales organization now?
We don't have a dedicated services sales. The sales teams are the ones that sell the product, and they also own the responsibility of selling the services. What we have is a dedicated pre-sales function, which basically define the delivery strategy and the delivery approach, and they present that to our sales teams, and then we go together with the best approach to address our customers' challenges.
Right. Okay, great. Because I was going to ask them, what have been some of from a commercial standpoint, what have been some of the wins for you guys with regards to that pre-sales playbook? Kind of how have you seen that help you sell services and product more effectively?
Well, actually, our pre-sales capability, our pre-sales people, they have a very strong technical background, and they have been implementing solutions for a long time. So they not only know very well the technology, but they also know what are the strategies and the practices that can more quickly bring value to our customers. And this gives a lot of credibility to sales conversations with customers. So we have a very methodological methods and a systematic way of doing discovery calls with customers. We try to understand what their business processes are, their business challenges, the technical challenges. So we bring together these methods of doing a structured discovery call, and then we start bringing our use cases to the conversation. We drive a solution. We do a solution and a value drive conversation. We avoid transactional conversations. And I think by bringing all these value to the conversations with customers, we give credibility to whatever solution we are discussing to the customer. And that is quite powerful, I would say. And we are very aligned with the sales teams in terms of sales motions, playbooks, where to go, when to go, in which moment of the journey, which services to plug in when we are speaking to our customers according to where they are in the adoption journey and growth journey regarding our product.
I think that's super important, right? I mean, I know you learned some of the Challenger methodology, which is a school that I came from as well.
I love it.
Well, just having that prescriptive approach, right? I think as you use the word, I always love the language that you use. Like you use the word around like structured approach, and there's this consistency, and that allows you to align processes. You have to have it very consistent on the sales side. It needs to be very consistent. It needs to be very choreographed. I think there's probably an over-engineering of commonality and language in the software industry. It's like, we're going to do discovery, or things like that. I think I prefer the mindset of like diagnosis, right? We know, if we know a customer segment, we know their problems going in. It's much more about how do those problems manifest in that particular business, that business's context, that business's growth trajectory, because the kind of the emphasis on certain problems tends to change depending on the trajectory of an organization, right? So that's super interesting. When you think about then just a kind of a quick follow-up clarification question. So when you are aligning your team's process to the sales process, did you put people through the sales training? How did you get the alignment in your team on understanding the process? And then and how long did that take to bed in? Was that a 6-12 month, like, people really then get it? Help us understand there.
So we have an onboarding program, right? We have a playbook for this pre-sales capability. We have a playbook where these people are exposed to how we operate internally, how sales work with the MedPeak methodology. So they are exposed to that methodology in order to understand how we should align with the teams. And we are working together from day one. So we sit together during summertime with the sales VPs. Our organization sits with the sales VPs where we discuss the business challenges. We also discuss the operating models. So anytime a new person joins our pre-sales group, they are exposed to the strategies, they are exposed to the sales processes, and then they also participate on the sales forecast. So they are very much aligned with the way sales work. And then we also define the strategies together. And then they obviously need to follow up with good execution. Usually the strategy is the easiest part, I think. The most difficult is execution. Not always execution is the way we would like to be to drive the right results. But from an alignment and onboarding point of view, they get exposed to all the processes. They get introduced to the sales teams. They participate on the sales forecast processes. And we make sure they understand thoroughly how it works so that when we are working together, we can be pretty much effective.
Interesting. Yeah, I think you highlight something there on like the MEDDIC methodology. So, for those listening, some of you may already use this. It's a methodology that helps with qualification, deal management. People think about it in different ways. I think something that a lot of the services community sometimes struggle with is, how do we best get services to engage with sales, to align with sales, and add value in that sales cycle? And I think there's a couple of areas. So within the MEDDIC methodology, part of what you're talking about with customers is their metrics, right? The metrics or targets that they have and how they're going to hit those targets, and the impact of your solution to help them to hit those targets, whether it's velocity, revenue, cost reduction, whatever it might be. Services is like the hub of information and insight on how you're doing that in the real world and those stories. So I think that's super important to be able to bring in those real world examples from recent implementations and things like that. It's very compelling, and it's more compelling coming from a services person than it is from an AE. The other element is the champion element. So the champion element of MEDDIC is about, like, how do you have champions who are championing OutSystems or your solution? That's changing. The dynamics of champions in businesses is changing, because what you have is kind of the traditional leadership community, the management community, but actually the individual contributors, the people that use technology and use software. So whether that's devs, frontline teams, frontline sellers, frontline marketers, they increasingly are brought in as a cohort to evaluate solutions and sales cycles. So again, like, we often under index on like the impact for the individuals. And when we were at the TSIA, right, and everyone was banging on about AI, I met a gentleman from GE who was the chief customer officer for one of their divisions. And I said, what was the best thing you saw at this thing? And he was like, all this AI bullshit was all about theory. The best thing was like a frontline member of, I think, service desk team, and how it impacted them in their daily job, saving them time and increasing productivity. These stories is where like services should be living and collecting them, and you have a library of things, and then you bring it back into the MEDDIC process. I don't know, it was a bit of a rant, but that's my
definitely, Jonathan. And I also believe that when we are building our value proposition and our positioning, and we want to bring it to the customers, we also need to be aware that when we are engaging with customers, we are engaging with multiple stakeholders, right? You are engaging with the IT manager or with the CIO, but you also need to engage with architects. You also need to engage with the procurement different teams, with the CFO sometimes depending on the size of the deal or which business areas we are working with. So we have to understand that the way we articulate our value proposition needs to be adjusted to their roles and to their KPIs as well. So that's why I believe services bring such value, and the entire customer office. So services at OutSystems lives within the customer office. We are a group of, services teams like the customer success, the solution architects, the support services, and the professional services. The way we articulate our strategies and our value proposition to the customers has really to be unified, integrated, and then adjusted to the stakeholders with whom we are speaking, so that they feel we truly understand them, and we not just understand them, but the solutions we bring to the table, either being an implementation or being an ongoing advising service, that drives value for them, and that helps them accelerate the outcomes they expect to get from our product. And I really love that, because it's not that difficult. We just need to sit and understand how to adjust the message and do it in an articulated way.
Yep. No, love that. Okay, cool. Final thing around kind of on the sales element. So then in terms of like incentives, this is kind of a topic for services leaders, which is I think again a kind of a moving target about how do we best incent like our teams. What's some of your experience and perspective on how those incentives kind of are going to shape behaviors of people and attitude to services? And that can be incentives for the sales team, the CS team, and the services team, whatever direction you want to go in.
Well, I would say the incentives play a very important role when selling services, because they drive behaviors, right? They help shape some good behaviors or correct bad ones. However, they don't work alone. I'm a true defender of using incentives as a mechanism to drive good behaviors and help them to leverage our services better. But they don't work alone, right? We still need to demonstrate the value for our customers. Because even salespeople knowing that they will get some money out of the services, we still need to articulate the value of our services. We need to demonstrate how, by using services, it will impact their customers, and it will help them be more effective in their sale. For example, this year we have changed our incentives for sales and for the community. I think it's also impacting the solution architects, which is the product pre-sales capacity. We have decided to focus on a business line that we want to grow in the future. Okay, so our future growth will be sustained by a specific service line. So we are paying better if they sell that specific service line. So that's the way we work and operate, in order to make sure that they understand that by selling that specific service line, they are not only impacting better their customers in a positive way in terms of adoption and expansion, and obviously realizing value, but they are also getting more money and bring more money home. So I truly think that it's very relevant. So in terms of compensation KPIs, the sales teams also bear the services quota, okay? And the solution architects also bear the services quota. And it's very important that it is that way. Otherwise, I think they would not be motivated or driven
so sales
as much as they are.
For clarity, the sales team has, there's a linkage in their commission structure
there is.
to services targets, or a services attached on a deal?
To services targets. They have a specific services quota. We also measure attach rates, services attach rates for a specific business line, the one we want to grow, because we believe is the one bringing more value to our customers.
Yeah, I really like that idea.
However, and that's also the way we build our budget. We use attach rates to build the budget. However, they have a services quota. Okay, that's how we operate right now. And our people, they have a services bonus, our pre-sales capacity. So they are all compensated based on KPI and performance.
Yeah, I love the idea of the adjusted commission rates on different services lines or services SKUs. I think that's that's very smart to drive certain types of behavior. It's also good for engagement, right? If you're doing enablement sessions and things like that. I've seen numerous enterprise technology businesses and mid-market ones giving quota relief on recurring services, and it being generating the same amount of commission and quota relief as software. I've seen businesses that have got very large software ACV and very large services ACV pay exactly the same. And then you see a lot of organizations where people aren't compensated on services at all. And that's a very hard place to be in get people to engage with services, which is going back to your initial point. You have to have a very clear narrative around the value and the impact of services. Definitely. And personally, I think that over time, you need to be able to be paying people something on it, so there's some degree of monetary impact. I do think that a question to ask when you're kind of like doing that tour of duty with sales that I think is very instructive into salespeople's behavior is ask them this question: is what are you more scared of? Losing a deal or making less commission? And always they will say losing a deal. That's what they're more scared of. And so the motivation with salespeople is about increasing conversion rates. And it's like, what you essentially want is you want like them to be talking about services going, these folks are awesome. They help me close more deals. How does that happen? And if you don't have a very clear answer about that's where it will never work. In my business, true. In my business, in my industry, right? People like you are the buyer. Now, if we don't have a very articulate and effective approach to how we talk about services and implementation, we're not going to do many deals. So ours is a bit of an exception. We have to sort of over-index in that area to build kind of the credibility, right, with our customer base. But many organizations, it's kind of the opposite. The mindset is, how do we make this seem as easy as possible to implement? So I think it's just this target. How you incentivize behaviors is just this constantly moving thing. But I really like some of the ideas there.
Yeah, but definitely, in my view, it has to be there. But definitely the value needs to be there, okay? And then you also bring the compensation factor, possibly to make it, it sticks. When they know that they also can get money, it sticks. Yeah. And they try to increase the attach rates, or they try to bring us. But look, regardless of the pay, the compensation, once the sales teams understand, and we have some champions here at OutSystems, once they understand the impact of bringing the services, knowledge, and expertise to a deal, magic happens, and they start replicating. They start bringing us to other customers. And what I love the most is once we engage with the customer and they are very satisfied with the quality of our work, it is the customer himself advocating for the services, which I love. Right? So sometimes we have the customers as our best advocates, speaking to our communities about the quality and the impact of the work we have done. Even the other day, we had a customer sending an email to our CEO. We were so proud, acknowledging the importance of the team, the work they had done, and the skills we had brought, and the impact it's having in their transformation. So we were very proud. And as you can see, this can work as the best advocacy for the quality and the importance of our work. But compensation is still very important.
Yeah. I get a lot of those messages, so I'm quite proud of them.
That's good.
For about the range of the customer organization. So you got about 150, 200 people in PS now, or circa that globally?
Around 200 people, yeah.
Also, 200 people.
Yeah, accounting with some contractors, but around 200 people.
So one of the things that, we talk about is this services maturity curve, right? Which is kind of this never end, this idea that there's you win at the end, right? You complete Monopoly or something is a fallacy, because it's always, you're always maturing and iterating. But as you look back over the last, let's say 2-3 years, what were some of the key challenges, like 2 or 3 of the key challenges that you had to navigate on? I'm curious there.
Okay, so in the beginning, you asked what changes have you been going through with your services organization, and I told you that one of the things is alignment with all the internal stakeholders. One of the bigger challenges when we sit all together, services, with the other functions within the customer office, and then we have product management, R&D, the channel organization. One of the biggest challenges was to get right the alignment with the channel organization and to define the charter of the professional services organization. Because as I explained to you in the beginning, while the company expects us to be an adoption engine supporting the adoption of the product, at the same time, we are expected to deliver profitable growth, right? And at the same time, we have the GTM leaning into the partner community, which makes sense because we want to scale out. But the alignment with the channel organization, it was a tough one. I think we are in a very good place today because we have defined some plays where we know when to engage with partners. And more than that, we are bringing our knowledge to the partner community to allow them to accelerate their readiness to deliver with our technology. So we are much better aligned. And we also work with them when we have projects to implement or when we require specific expertise. We expand our capability working directly with partners as well. When I say we, professional services, obviously. So that was one of the biggest challenges. And right now, I would say we are in a good place because we are reducing friction and we are more and more aligned in joint plays with them. Even in some events, we come together sharing common stories where we were able to be successful together. And that's we call it the 3 win-win, and we are very proud of it. And then another challenge was to align the right balance between the service lines, right? We have implementation services, which we call delivery services. We have education services, expert services, and we have what we call the success managers, which are basically technical success managers. They advise and guide our customers, trying to reduce technical debt and enabling their teams. The challenge has been, how do I balance between the service lines? What is the right amount of services that we should have coming out of delivery services against the technical success management? And we believe that more and more we should leave the delivery services to the partners. That doesn't mean that we don't need to be there. We need to be there because it's based on those delivery services that we build innovation, we drive innovation, and we build our practices and our talent, our people. But at the same time, we also have to leave space to the partner community, and we are trying to support and to sustain our future growth through the technical success managers through that ongoing assurance and advisory service. So the right balance has also been one of our challenges, and I think we are doing the right things. Let's see if it works. And scalability, I would say, just to wrap up, that scalability of the PS function. How do we scale, knowing that we cannot go organically as the company grows, right? So we have to be very smart in the way we package our services, in the way we think about enabling the communities, customers, and partners, about the way we digitize our business and how we leverage, for example, AI, and how do we bring it to our not only internal processes, but to the way we engage with customers and we deliver our skills and practices to our customers. So these 3 have been the biggest challenges that we have gone through over the last years.
Yep, very interesting. I like that. So to make a couple of comments. So I think there is this inherent narrative that you grow your business, services will come X amount of revenue, and then partners will come in. You'll have this kind of perfect synergy with the partner community of engagement with them, delivery excellence with them. They'll start bringing you deals and all of this, and there's that kind of romance in the reality. And then you're like, I wonder why Accenture's not taking our calls. Well, it's because your service's ACV is about 50K and their average deal value is $10 million. So that's why they're not interested. But you've got a lot of, there's a lot of public SaaS companies who are founded by first-time or second time around business owners who've got no clue about services and these types of things, and they're like, yeah, just we'll have partners do it. And I just think that it's knowing that it takes a lot. I bet it took a lot longer than you expected to get it right, right?
It's an ongoing process, Jonathan.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
I would say nobody can say we got it right this time.
We got it right. No, I do.
It's
I
an
agree.
ongoing process. Sometimes you think it's working well, and you are really working well in some of the geos. It also depends on the cultures, on the geos, on the way that the markets operate, right? We need to adjust because not every strategy works in every geo, as you know quite well. So it's an ongoing process. Sometimes we are very successful, others not so much, and we need to keep adjusting. That's why data is so important, and capturing the data is so important, so that we can assess, monitor, and plan and readjust whenever we think that something is not working well. But it's an ongoing process.
I think the point you raised around the balancing of the service lines is super interesting as well, right? Like there's this, there's been a shift in the types of services that people sell from maybe traditional T&M to more, fixed price outcomes engagements. And then you've got this subscription services narrative that you saw me present on a TSIA, which is, again, is a Pandora's box of things. I think the bit that again is kind of underappreciated is like the more it's why services is a business within a business. The more lines of business you have, the more lines of revenue you have, the more complexity inherently builds in your function. And usually you're not being given all of the headcount that you want. So you have to be very sharp with your organizational design and the operating model, which I see some people lacking in. They've essentially just got an org chart, and it's like, well, these guys do a bit of this, and these folks over here do a bit of this. And you actually need to start thinking very three-dimensionally in terms of organizational design, whether it's matrix, whether it's pods, whether, how are you going to have people being able to work between different areas? Because spoiler alert, some people are good at deployments and they're terrible at managed services work, right? Because you've got in managed service, you've got context switching, it's very high velocity versus maybe some people are used to being on project work. So I think that word of balance is iterate, start small, get it right, move on to the next. Start small, get it right, move on to the next. I think is a good philosophy.
It's a good philosophy, and it's very important. More and more I find, because we have different types of skills and profiles, people also need to start being more versatile, right? They cannot wait for the next project just on their area of expertise. We need to understand that in order to mitigate risk better and manage resources more efficiently, we have to start thinking what other skills can these people have, so that they can not only do implementation services, but if need be, they can deliver this expert service that require part of the skills that they have and they master. So this is, for me, it's a critical topic right now, how to make these teams more diverse and more versatile to deliver more services with the same quality and the same value to our customers, regardless the way we get these services to the customers.
There's a people maturity curve, which again, I didn't quite get until recently, because what happens is you start in services with utility players, everyone's doing everything. Then you move into areas of specialism, whether it's PMO, solution architects, technical consultants. And then you have to, again, as you go into the next growth phase, which I think is more like probably the early phase is maybe up to 30 people. Then you start getting some structure from 30 to 50, then really kind of 50 and above, certainly 100 and above. You have to then move back into this kind of utility player game. And it's quite interesting. It's like sports, just like in, you have special teams for a period, but then you kind of, those special teams need to sort of merge into this group of utility players, as you say, if you're going to get scale.
Definitely.
So interesting. Cool. Going to skip on to one thing then. So a couple of quick other questions on this maturity piece. So the role of ops, the role of operations, whether that's PS operations, central operations in the business, help us understand the role that this has played in binding this together and helping with the maturity.
Well, I am a big fan of the PS ops. Honestly, they are my partner in crime.
Partner in crime, love it.
They are definitely. Our professional services operations group is always part of the strategic discussions, operating models. Obviously, they own the processes and the tools, but they're always part of the early discussions when we are discussing strategy, because then they have to reflect back on the way we operate those strategies, right? They have to make sure that the processes we have, the systems that support our business, they support these changes, or they support the strategy that we want to implement. Even in the way we look at data and we analyze data, our operations team, they work our Power BIs and dashboards. So they truly need to understand the business drivers. They truly need to understand what is moving the company and what is moving the organization. So my ops team, for me, they are very relevant and important. I tell them this regularly. I truly acknowledge the importance of having a structured operations team that knows very well how to get structured in order to have bigger impact to our customers. So we are constantly evolving the way we, the quote to cash process, the planning and forecasting process, the dashboards, how do we present data to our executives and to our company? And we are always having discussion to improve all these processes so that we can effectively manage our business with accuracy, with predictability, and so that we are a reliable organization. I think I can say that, I can proudly say that we are a reliable organization because we know our business. I think we manage it well, and the PS Ops group have a fundamental and critical role in this context.
Yeah, I think values come into that a lot, like values and culture, which I want to talk about in a moment, which is like you have to have a mindset and sort of values around like what are we for, right? If it's like the way that I think about kind of the ops folks, as you said, is they're the intelligence unit, right? So they're not like, oh, you're ops. Oh, ops is maybe been degraded over the years. It's like, oh, that's a back office. It's like, no. We're the engine room. We're the intelligence unit of how we run this business better, because it is a business within a business. And so I think that starts with like the metrics and the KPIs, right? And you're kind of working back from that. So when you think about those, what are some of the kind of the core metrics and KPIs, and how have those changed over time? Because they can start very basic with like billable util when you're smaller, but they will have evolved in your organization. So kind of help us understand kind of what are some of the key things that you look at now, and how has that changed?
Honestly, over the last 3 years, our metrics, our most important metrics, haven't changed that much. As being a growth engine, bookings, revenue, and billability are, the most, and margin, net operating margin. Those would be the most important ones. We also track CSATs. They are also very important for our business to assess the quality and customer satisfaction. So these are very important, and they align to the corporate targets, okay? However, over the recent years, we are leaning more into understanding not only our metrics, the ones that directly are related to our business, but how they are impacting the product growth. So we correlate with the new ARR, with the total ARR growth, with the net retention rate, with the new logos acquisition, with the churn, with the renewal rates. So this is where we are putting a lot of effort. How can we best correlate so that we can make informed decisions, right? So we come up with new, more operational and financial metrics that helps us understand where we should change our execution or even our strategy. That is where I see more focus, and where we are putting a lot of effort in terms of the data we are capturing and the decisions we are making.
So your net operating margin, you're under a little bit more pressure than gross margin then. So that's the next one. I think the guidance I would give to people on this is you're always going to have the challenge in services is like you've kind of got company beliefs and then comp, and those two things can be at odds with one another. So if the company beliefs are, we drive customer value and these types of things, that's great, but my comp plans and that of my team is services revenue.
That says another thing,
right? So it's, and therefore it's kind of like you know, at times you're going to sacrifice certain things for that because your job is on the line in certain cultures if you don't hit that. And it's like, you know, we can all sing Kumbaya and say that we're aligned with the SMT, but if the board and the investor is looking at your P&L and it's going up and down like a yo-yo, why is services costing us so much money? Well, this person running it's, you know, right? That's the reality that some people have to deal with. So you kind of have to balance it. The advice that I would give is you want to tell the story of the customer journey that flows into the financials, right? So you've got velocity and quality metrics at the top, which is like time to launch, time to value. Those are two different metrics, in my opinion, for most companies, unless value is when you switch it on, you're making a client more secure, more compliant, whatever it may be, right? Where it's immediate value. You're then telling the story into like more qualitative experience metrics like CSAT or NPS and these types of things. And so the velocity and the quality then feeds through into things like your backlog, your revenue. And then you'd be looking at, well, great, we're delivering quickly. Are we delivering efficiently? Which is when you kind of your margin comes in and the conversion rates there. I think the bit that's probably missing or that's hard to triangulate sometimes is, as you say, is the services consumption to ARR growth rate, services trends to GRR and NRR trends. Like some people say it's difficult to measure that. The key thing to do is look at it over a trend. So if you can plot your delivery times, your margin trends, your CSAT trends over time at the front end of the customer journey, and then your GRR and your NRR over that same period of time, what you should see is if your deployment time's going down, your GRR and your NRR should be going up.
Should be going up, definitely.
Should be going up because you'll be delivering value quicker. You'll be getting to second order transactions quicker, second order bookings quicker. So it's key to show it over a time horizon, not a moment in time. So that's kind of my rant over.
That's very to the point, Jonathan, to the point. Yeah, over time, so that we can understand the impact over time. It's very difficult to understand how we impact just in a point in time. We have to look at trends and how the business is impacting over time our performance, our company performance.
Well, listen, thank you ever so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Lots of, I think, very useful insights. I think for anyone undertaking a services transformation, the opening 15 minutes of this show is kind of like the building blocks for that. So really grateful for that, because I think there's a number of folks in the SDA community and elsewhere that will value that. Did you enjoy it?
I loved it, Jonathan. I think I told you at the SIA when we met there, I truly value the insights that I'm getting from you and from the SDA. I think the people that go there have very common challenges, and the ideas that we discuss and the models and the trends, the strategies we have been discussing have been very insightful. And I truly appreciate you inviting me. It's an honor.
Oh, no.
And allowing me to share not only what OutSystems is, but how we operate and how we are addressing some of the challenges that you pointed out there. So thank you so much for the invitation. It was an honor to be here today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big believer that we're a thinking company, and my business and the community is really based around this central idea that kind of once you reach a certain size and scale, everyone's got the same problems. So don't reinvent the wheel, but also kind of arm yourselves with like tangible insights from your peers that where you can defend or accelerate a narrative internally. Also, one final thing, someone reached out to me and said, "What is your painting about in the background?" So I'm going to explain for 1 minute. This is by a Chinese artist called Sheng Qi, who is, I guess, a bit of a Chinese dissident. He is famous, among other things, for chopping off his little finger in alignment with the some of the oppression that he felt people there undertook. And it's Chairman Mao's head on Venus de Milo's body in Tiananmen Square. So it's a kind of a symbolism of kind of power gone awry. My friend was many years ago was an art dealer, so I bought that about 15 years ago. I'm not power gone awry, I don't think, in my own life, but there we go. So that's for the person that reached out and asked me. Anyway, okay. Right, lovely to have you on. Have a great day.
Thank you too, Jonathan. Bye.
Bye.